and welcome to the world of Apocalypse Now. I'm Professor Redwood, but everyone calls me the Pokemon Professor. Well, that's enough about me. Why don't you tell me about yourself? Are you a boy, or a girl, or non-binary, or gender fluid? Maybe I could be someone just a little bit different this time? But I still want to have a thing where I want to kill my parents. Of course! Sweet. Can you also tell me your name? What a wonderful name! Now, allow me to introduce you to your best friends.
Hi, I'm David, and I am playing your Game Master, or as I think it's called in Pokemon, your Arceus? I'm not sure.
Hi, I'm Duffy. I will be playing Azrael. I am a feral with a bit of an axe to grind.
Hey everyone, my name's Adam. You may remember me as having played the role of Darts, but for today's purposes, I'm now Chomper, a mutant with a bit of a chip on his shoulder and a nasty facial deformity.
Hi everyone, I'm Vlad, and you may remember me as playing Charlotte Fuduciala, but right now I will be playing Lux, a Pokemon trainer who is, well, I've decided to conquer the world.
Excellent! Now that we have that out of the way, we can begin the first episode of this podcast. The young man who helped me set it up assures me that that is the correct pronunciation, but, well, his first language is American English, so I'm taking it a bit on faith. If you didn't hear the brief message I sent out a few weeks ago, our class will be taking a bit of a detour. The university's Department of Temporal Mechanics contacted me in order to get my help in deciphering recordings they had received, supposedly from the future. A future where our world had fallen and burned. These recordings are apparently a history of the world that has yet to happen. After a brief disagreement on the methodologies of research, I have pilfered the recordings and am currently on the run from, well, a lot of people. Some with badges, some without, mostly heavily armed. That is beside the point of this podcast, however, as the important part is that I will be releasing the recordings in the form of a podcast. This way, we can get the most brilliant minds in the world working on building a timeline of the future. And once we have a timeline, we can decide if we want to avoid it. For this first episode, I want you to pay particular attention not just to our main cast of characters, but those existing at the periphery, those who have a reflection in our own time. If you find any clues that might point the way to what happened in this world, please like, comment, or better yet, write a review on your podcasting provider detailing your theory of how the world will end. But let us put aside the ramblings of one man and begin the first episode of Apocalypse Now.
So we look down upon a tangled, cracked web of canyons in the cold desert which you call your home. At the bottom of these ravines there is an ominous greenish-yellow light glowing up and illuminating the evening. As we descend into the ravines, we see a Dhelmise half buried in the rock face of one of the walls. Even though it is immobile, water drips from it steadily, and the spotted greens amongst the largely brown seaweed indicates that the Pokemon is still alive. As we continue down past the trapped Pokemon, we enter the caves where you all make your homes. We see the old officer Jenny, who is sitting at the cliff face, watching the sunset, as she often does. We see her son, Ginormous, wandering the base, ensuring everything is in good order. we swoop past the radio antenna, at the base of which Mercedes keeps her constant vigil, accompanied by her pet Snubble. And then we come in to you guys. Why don't you each, or whoever wants to go first, can give me a brief description of your character and what you're doing, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Lux is hanging around towards the back of the training ground. She's got a little alcove back there where no one bothers her. She likes to go back there and just chill out after a hard workout for herself and her Fennekin. She's about middling height, but you can see from her bare arms that she works out a lot. She's pretty powerfully built. And on top of that, the sides of her head are shaved, but the top is left long, so most of her hair just falls to the side in this long sweep of black dreads. Fennekin is curled up in her lap. It looks like a gray and silver fox, except that it has these huge ears with these sort of red tufts sticking out of them. On her head, she's wearing these headphones. They're wooden paneled, but they're old and chipped and stained, but they're the best the wasteland has to offer. And she is currently singing off-key to City of Angels by the Distillers.
Are these headphones by any chance Beats by Dratini?
Oh, I salute you, David.
This is what you can expect from the Pokemon show from now on.
Puns until we're all dead. These are actually Meloettas. They are the off-brand version of the Beats by Dratini. Whoever had these before her, well, guess they just couldn't afford the Beats by Dratini, so they had to settle for Meloettas. But I will say again that these are the best headphones currently in the wasteland. So I guess the Beats by Dratini just didn't last, man.
Okay, so as you're sitting there in the corner singing off-key, a stick about 3 feet long and an inch wide comes soaring through the air and whacks you on the head. And looking up, you see Ginormous holding a similar stick. And he says, "You, feel in the mood for a practice bout?"
I'm always in the mood. And she gets up, and as she does so, Fennekin jumps off her lap and lands on her feet and looks up at Lux with this look like, you know the look that cats give you when they've been sitting in your lap and you have the temerity to stand up, and they give you this just look like, how dare you? I was sitting there. Return to where you were and give me back my seat, human. Lux bends down and gives Fennekin a quick scratch behind the ear, just to, not really like to placate her, but more just for, you know, the comfort of the contact. After a second, Fennekin doesn't quite purr, but at least stops giving her the look like, sit back down. When Lux stops, she just goes to the side of the area in the training ground set up for, you know, sparring, and just watches them. This is not a new thing for her.
Yeah, so go ahead and real quick roll me either finesse or wreck.
Oh, sweet. That's a 6.
Okay, so because you rolled a 6, you get a full success. If you had multiple dice that you were rolling and you rolled 2 6s, that would be a critical success. If your result had been a 4 or 5, it would be a partial success. And on a 1 to 3, it would be a bad outcome. So because you got a full success, I'm going to let you narrate how you disarm or otherwise get the better of Ginormous. And remember, Ginormous is aptly named. He is at least 7 feet tall and extremely muscle-bound. And I believe you rolled finesse on this, so it will not be a story of you beating him in a straight wrestling match.
No, that was not the thought here. So, Ginormous is a big guy, but for a big guy, he is really, really fast, and he knows how to fight. staves, knives, swords, guns, whatever. He knows how to use it. But Lux is faster than him, and she's more graceful. So she's not trying to meet him head on. She's more dancing away from his attempted strikes, deflecting them where she can, just sidestepping where she can, but letting him get closer and closer every time. And when he eventually overextends himself on a move, she sidesteps and she swings her stick in a big arc around and catches him in the ribs with just this solid thwack. He clenches his side and almost half falls over, but he looks up at her with a grin. That's a move that he taught her.
And as he grins up at you, he says, That was pretty good work, but I was just a bit tuckered out from earlier in the day. I'll get you next time, I'm sure.
Of that I have no doubt, my old friend.
And from there, we pan away, and who wants to be the next one to introduce their character?
Pick me, coach.
Okay, Adam, go ahead.
As the camera pulls away and sort of soars through the settlement, we transition over to a small grotto sort of embedded within the canyon walls. Inside this grotto is a figure slumped back against a wall. He is wearing a hooded cloak, tattered, patchworked. This cloak has been worn a great deal, and no one's bothered to patch it up. The hood is currently up, but if you were to pull it down, you would see that the figure wearing it has the right side of his face is mostly human, if discolored though and slightly grayish. It's when you get to the left side of his face that things start to get eerie. Going from the center toward the left, his mouth starts to split open well into his upper jaw, revealing rows of sharp teeth, and the occasional dribble of saliva just coming out with no attempt to police it. His left eye is reptilian and yellow. A good visual comparison would be what Michael Rooker turns into in the movie Slither, with the difference being that this is less mush and raw meat, but more reptilian and saurian or perhaps crocodilian. He's currently slumped up against with his back against the cave wall. He's apparently dozing and being roused from a nap. And as he starts to regain consciousness, he sort of clutches the left side of his face in an acknowledgement of pain, and he reaches up to the roof of the cave and plucks down a mushroom. He sort of sniffs it a bit, as though he's trying to discern whether or not it's ripe, and he takes it and takes care to chew with the right side of his mouth. And so he nibbles on it a bit and sets it down and swallows. And after a few minutes, the pain in his face seems to subside. He stands up, starts to move his way out of the cave. Aside from the cloak he's wearing sort of a standard white t-shirt, which is torn up in several places, with a faded set of blue jeans. His left arm, from what the camera can make of it, is also very leathery and scaled, and is sort of ends where his hand should be is sort of a three-fingered claw. He sets up and he walks out of his little grotto and to regard the day.
So, Gage approaches you as you head out to watch the sunset, and he says, "Hey man, how's things going?"
Morning, Gage, or is it evening?
It's evening.
Oh, I've been out most of the day. How have things been?
Just trying to put things back together after the raid.
Did it go that poorly?
Jeez, you have been out of it. No, it went really, really well for the people who were raiding us and took a bunch of our food.
Oh, well, fuck me. So Gage, who were these bastards? Did a neighboring tribe? Some roving nomads? What?
Yeah, it was the fucking Reds.
Those guys, you'd think they'd be more inclined to share.
Yeah, you'd think that, wouldn't you?
Well, do we have a plan of attack? Are we getting our shit back?
I don't know, man. That's a bit beyond my pay grade.
Oh crap! I'll see about talking to the lady in charge, and hopefully we can send out some folks and maybe sneak in and get some of our crap back, if not all of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go diving. You wanna come with?
Yeah, there's always fun little knickknacks down there. I'll go with you.
All right. And you guys start heading down to the River of Glow at the bottom of the canyon you inhabit. You descend down into the cavern where you access the glow. It is a dark ravine, one of the deeper cracks in the mazes where you dwell. And at the bottom of this ravine, the darkness is broken by an eerie greenish-yellow glow. Indeed, this glow comes from the very substance which is named after it. As you approach, you feel the usual tingling across your arms and back. Go ahead and roll Scrounge for me.
Alrighty, I believe I have a pip in that. Yes, I have 2 actually. The first is a 4. The second is another 4.
Okay, so with a 4, you get a partial success. So you do what you were trying to do, but there are consequences. As you descend into the glow, your world is consumed by eerie greenish-yellow glow of the opaque fluid. The fluid holds particles of dust and grime very close to you as you enter, leading to a momentary, almost static-y look as this dart flows off of you. And then you begin swimming downwards through this opaque slime, never able to see more than a few feet in front of you at a time. So I'm going to let you choose. Do you want to have not really found anything, or do you want to have found something but something goes wrong?
I think the latter sounds more interesting.
Okay, how about you tell me what it is you found, and I'll tell you what goes wrong.
As I'm down there in the glow, I think I see what looks like an old digital alarm clock. I just sort of pick it up and regard it, see if it can be sort of disassembled for whatever circuits or goodies may lie within. And as I'm doing that, I guess something goes wrong.
Yes, so you are fiddling with this alarm clock. You begin heading towards the surface when suddenly your head cracks against a stone above you, and you realize that you, unbeknownst to you, been swept into an underglow cave. And to find your way out, roll hunt for me.
Alright. I rolled a 3 for the first, and another 3 for the second.
So a 1 to 3 is actually a bad outcome. So you pick the wrong direction. So you're swimming through this cave when the yellowish-green light of the glow is supplemented by a red glow from a 7-segment display. You regard this curiously for a moment until you realize that it is in fact counting down. And this counting down red display is attached to a strange series of metal tubes, which you cannot readily identify, but attempting to shift it shows it to be very firmly implanted in this rock. You would hazard a guess that this occurred at the same time as whatever embedded the Dhelmise into the rock above your home, because like the Dhelmise, this is not moving whenever you shove it. And doing some quick mental calculations, which I will just assume you're capable of, you realize that this timer will hit 0 about 3 weeks to a month from now.
Well, we're off to a great start. I'm going to go ahead and just let go of what is ostensibly the clock and try to swim my way out of here.
Okay. Yeah. You definitely would have seen this device on your way in, so that does tell you that you were swimming in the wrong direction. And so you do manage to reverse course and find your way out of the cave and back to the surface well before your breath runs out. And as you reach the surface and begin pulling yourself onto land, let's cut away to Duffy.
Azrael would be found in his cave. You'd pan in through the door and you'd see younger man, late teens, early 20s looking, sitting cross-legged with a sword on his lap, no shirt on, with an older woman behind him stitching him up. He's got black hair, and you occasionally see his gray eyes close and a grimace hit as she puts the needle through his skin again. You see scars all over his torso, and if you look at his arms, some of them even appear to be in a bit of a pattern, and some of them appear to be new. He is talking to this woman and slowly cleaning the blade in his lap, just showing that he may have taken out a couple of people during the raid.
Do you need to jump in front of every blade that you see?
I was simply doing my job. I have to protect people. I have to protect you.
But have you ever considered that maybe protecting yourself might also be part of that? You worry me sick, honestly.
I'm still breathing. I'm still here.
Yes, for now.
Azrael let out a long sigh, and I will try and be more careful.
Thank you. That's... I know I say this enough to make you tired of hearing it, but it really would break my heart to lose you.
And it would break mine to lose you, and doing this is how I keep us here, housed and fed, and keep you with medical care as much as we can get in this insane place. There's a few minutes of silence between Azrael and his mother, and yeah, as soon as you're done here, you know I'm gonna have to go find Mercedes. We have to go after them.
Yes, I know. Just do try to be careful.
They're going to need to be careful.
She rolls her eyes but smiles at that. Alright, well, you're in as close to One Piece as it's within my power to get you.
With trying very hard not to flex his back too much, he'll put his shirt back on and grab his cloak. Thanks, Mom. Thanks for looking out for me.
She smiles and nods.
I'll bring you back something good.
Thank you, dear.
I'll head out of the cave.
And where do you head to?
I would like to find Mercedes.
Okay, Mercedes is in the same place Mercedes always is.
Right.
So you head to the radio tower, and Mercedes' snubble pushes past you a little on your way in, and you see Mercedes, who is extremely pale-skinned, dark-haired woman in her late 30s. She is on the big side because you have never seen her leave this building that she's in right now. Azrael, good to see you, my friend. Come in.
Mercedes, I'm guessing you know why I'm here.
Of course. Have you gathered Ginormous and the others? I think that this is not the kind of conversation that we would do well to have alone.
I suppose I could try and round them up.
That would be a sensible first step, yes.
Well, you know me, Mr. Sensible.
Yes.
Have you seen either of them?
Oh, no. They have not come by, and it's not like I'm going to give up this watch now.
Fair enough. I will be back as soon as I find them. So I guess I'm hunting for everyone else.
Yes. So you are going to roll hunt.
Which I only have a single pip in, so I will roll a single die. That is a 5.
Okay, partial success.
I think I have something for this, if you don't mind. Lux is easy enough to find. She spends a lot of her time at the training ground just trying to improve herself and Fennekin. Right now, they're training in target practice for Fennekin and evasion for Lux. So Fennekin is firing off embers at Lux, and I think because of the 5, Lux manages to dodge one of the embers, but it zips past her head towards Azrael because he didn't know this was going on and he kind of just walked into the training ground.
Cool. So start this off by getting lit on fire. All right.
Yep, I'm happy with that. Roll me a prowess resistance.
It's not a specific skill in prowess, or would I be using finesse, or...
Yeah, so it could be any of the skills in prowess.
Oh, fuck yeah. I have 2 in prowl, so here we go.
So prowl is prowl about unseen and traverse obstacles. Climb, swim, run, and jump. Ambush with close violence. So how do you use that skill to avoid being lit on fire?
Yeah, that was like parkour over something to get cover.
Okay, cool. Yep, I like that. And so that is what you're trying to do, but go ahead and roll.
Okay. Oof, that's a 4 and a 1, so I guess a 4.
Okay. Yeah, a partial success. It was just going to be 1 harm, and a partial success is enough to knock that down to 0. So, you are good. Yeah, you jump behind the rocks just before you get set alight.
After the ember hits the rock behind me, Azrael's arms shoot up over the cover that he's behind and says, I surrender. I surrender.
Ooh, sorry, Azrael. You should know better than to be downrange. She didn't get you, did she?
Just missed. But I was actually looking for you.
Did Mercedes find something?
She didn't want to tell me. She wanted to talk to all of us at once.
The best idea. Let me grab something and I'll head out with you.
Have you seen Ginormous or Chomper?
Ginormous was here sparring with me earlier. He told me to be on the lookout because we might be heading out soon. As for Chomper, I haven't seen him since before the raid.
Well, we gotta find him. Shouldn't be too hard to spot him. Do I need to roll again to try and find Ginormous or Chomper?
No, that was the 1 roll for the entire trying to find people bit, and you already had the consequences from almost getting set alight.
Well, Lux would probably know where Ginormous is since he was just there, so do we want to say that she just takes you to where he is?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So Lux just takes you to Ginormous.
Ginormous, you ready to go?
I am most certainly ready. And he takes one of the sticks that people have been knocking together for a long time to train and just effortlessly snaps it in half. Where are we going?
Go to Mercedes in the radio tower and wait for us there.
Of course. And he stomps off.
And on to Chomper.
Chomper usually takes about 30 minutes to an hour to sort of wipe the glow juice off his body so he doesn't contaminate other people inadvertently, but this time he's pretty hurried. He's looking for anyone to give a fair warning to about what he just saw, and I believe he's heading into Mercedes' room to try to spread the word.
All right, so he was already heading to Mercedes.
Yeah.
Good enough. So, I mean, do you want us to just say we met him on the way, David, or...?
I'm going to say that you look around for him for quite a while and can't find him, and eventually you're just like, oh, fuck it, let's go to Mercedes, go back to Mercedes, I guess, and he's there and has been for 15 minutes.
Oh, so happy we found you.
We may have a problem, aside from, the Reds stealing our shit.
I assume you mean aside from you being covered in radioactive goo in the middle of the communications tower.
What's one more thing? Just pile it on.
I was diving a second ago, just looking for goodies and whatnot down there like I do, and there was a countdown timer down there in the glow. It'll hit 0 when it gets in about 3 weeks to a month. I don't know if that means anything, if The lack of elevation means it'll affect us if something happens, but I think we need to be aware of this.
What was it connected to?
I wasn't sure. A bunch of series of tubes made of metal. I didn't get as good a look as I would have liked.
Tubes made of metal with some kind of countdown timer attached. Well, fortunately, that doesn't sound ominous at all.
Underground timers. Historically a good sign.
They're usually the best sign.
Indeed.
You get presents and shit when they go off. It's like confetti goes everywhere.
Well, one problem at a time.
Ginormous, I assume you want us to deal with the raiders first, then figure out what the fuck is up with this countdown timer business?
That does seem to be the order of priorities, though. I suppose it certainly seems like a good idea to get back what was taken from those that took it, but we shouldn't rule out other options. We could see about maybe hitting a softer target just to keep body and soul together for now.
They took from us, we take it back. Otherwise, we become a soft target for anybody who's running around the wasteland. But honestly, I think it's time to start thinking about building some kind of alliance. We have shit people want. We can use that to try and make something, build something more than just ourselves.
Hierarchy of this place is Ginormous like a ranking officer?
Ginormous is in charge.
Okay, I want just to be 100% clear on that.
Yeah, it's a fairly flat hierarchy, but he is nominally the chief.
Obviously, we'll follow your lead, Ginormous, but I want payback.
All right then. I'm going to need to stay here to make sure no one comes up behind us, so it's your operation, and I'll let you handle it however you see fit.
We'll do what we need to do. In the meantime, maybe you should have someone dive down and check out this timer. No need to wait for us to get back.
Of course. I assume you told Gage about this already?
Yeah, Gage knows.
I'll have him take a look then.
Then it's settled. What have you got for us, Mercedes?
Well, I was able to confirm that it is the Reds. Not a huge surprise, but if you're determined to get back what was taken from those that took it, then we know who to hit. I've been keeping track of their operations as well as those of their neighbors, and if you need any information from me to help you in your planning, I can certainly oblige, or at the very least reach out to the Whites or someone else and see if I can get the information for you.
The actual raiders who attacked us, how far ahead of us are they? Is there any chance that we could catch up?
I doubt that. They have a pretty big lead. But we know who they are, so we know where they are going.
Do we know what route they would be taking back?
Yeah, this is not something Mercedes would know, but, generally how you get to Boneyard from the maze.
Okay, good enough.
They're going to be taking the roads.
So, besides Chomper being drugged out and not even remembering that the raid happened, how long ago was it, and would we know that they've made it back to their base, or that they haven't had enough time to?
It would have been 2 or 3 days ago, and it's a trek that you guys could make in a day, but they obviously had quite a lot of luggage with them, so it may have taken them a bit longer. But regardless, they'd be getting back right around now.
Is there anyone that we could call for backup?
Yes, you could. There are several people you're on good terms with. You could talk to Team Yell. They are always up for little good, honest violence. The Mensheviks are, of course, the rivals of the Bolsheviks and are always happy to do bad things to them. They would probably want a cut of the take, but they will certainly be happy to play ball. You can call B and the Steel Legion. They do try to keep some level of neutrality, but they will certainly be up for helping you guys out if the price is right.
I say we keep this small for now. We know where the Mensheviks are, and we know what we need to do to get our shit back. If we need help, we can always call for it, but for now, I'd rather prove that we are not to be fucked with.
Do we have a way of communicating with Mercedes from the field?
Oh, I had an idea. So, Fennekin is psychic type, right? Okay, so what if its mutation is that it has a radio antenna? And it can pick up radio signals from Mercedes and then beam them into your brains.
What if it's retractable?
I hate all of you. Fine. My shiny Fennekin, my lovely shiny Fennekin, has a retractable antenna in its head.
Okay, but all that is to say, yes, you have a way to contact Mercedes in the field.
Just wanted to make sure we can actually let her know to be like, hey, yeah, call them.
Mercedes gets to contacting the Mensheviks, and just to remind our players and you guys, there is a mechanic in Blades in the Dark where you can do what are called flashbacks. So basically, during the actual raid, you guys can say, I want to do a flashback where I did such and such to prepare. The more dramatic the thing is, the more strain it'll cost you. Essentially doing this costs you XP, or hit points. The idea being that, like, having taken more preparations beforehand stresses you out, but doing preparations now does not cost you hit points. So the more you can prepare now, the better off you'll be. But you don't need to stress too much about it.
In order to keep his pain beneath a certain threshold to which he can ignore, Chomper is going to just pluck a couple mushrooms out the ceiling of his grotto for the road.
So if you can note down somewhere easily backspaceable that you have some narcotic mushrooms on you.
Lux goes back to where she lives in the base and changes out of her regular clothes into tougher road leathers. Not like armor, but just something a little bit more rugged. And she grabs a handful of Pokemon berries to help if we want to try and tame any wild Pokemon.
If I may add an addendum to Chomper's preparation, in his little grotto, he takes a moment to sort of grind the claws on his left hand against a smooth slab of stone to sort of file them down to a fairly fine edge. He then takes a moment to kind of prick the relatively human artive on his right arm and see if it draws enough blood that it would be a sort of a decent natural weapon.
Okay. Yeah, that's not really, like, there won't really be any mechanics around that. It's just
flavor.
Azrael would have taken some time to sharpen his blade, which I'm now going to call the Arm of Nikiro.
Nice. Do you want to describe this weapon?
My sword, I've fashioned a hilt onto the arm of a Scyther that was my first Pokemon that died protecting me and my mom. So I've taken one of that Scyther's arms and fashioned it into a blade, and it continues to protect me.
To be clear, these fuckers said they didn't want to go too grimdark on this, and then they pulled this kind of shit with their gear.
Yeah, I go a little dark. So I would check. I have the sword. I would imagine I have a knife because my whole deal is stealth. So if I can get in close with a knife, I will. And I would check my gun.
These guys said they didn't want to go too grimdark, and then they go full Shadow the Hedgehog and bring a gun into Pokemon.
Okay, so Azrael is rolling with his sword and a sidearm. Chomper is rolling with his natural weaponry, and Lux is going to be taking a long Fennekin and a longer range rifle.
Okay, so you load up the tribe's one remaining undefined supply, and head out into the wastelands. You step out into the wasteland that you call home. It is a windswept tundra desert. It is very dry with next to no plant life, but it is cold, and this late in the year there are even a few flurries of snow beginning to fall. And as you look out over the windswept dunes, you do see in the distance a sandstorm, which has kicked up some sand and snow and glow, forming an eerie light show that sets your skin on edge, but it is still quite a distance off and looks like it is not heading in your direction, so you set off all the same. Let me ask you, so there are 3 possible ways to get to the boneyard. You could go to the Barrens and then cut across, which would involve going across a stretch of wasteland. You could just go straight to the roads, which is the shortest route as the crow flies, but it's also the most traveled, and so the most likely you would run into something unpleasant. Or you can go south to the dunes and see if you can't find an escort from Team Yell or someone. Going to the dunes is a safer route, but it is longer.
Do we know if anybody's in the Barrens?
Yes, there are several tribes there, including notably the one that you evicted from your current homes. Like, it's basically long and boring, short and interesting, or medium on both counts.
Short and interesting.
That would be my inclination as well. And our in-character justification could be we don't want them to see us coming. If we have a chance to sneak up or catch up to them before they make it back home, all the better.
Alright, yeah, that works. And I rolled a 5, which means you do not run into any trouble, and I will give you guys a choice. You can either encounter someone or something interesting, and interesting in a good way, or you can arrive shortly before the raiding party makes it back.
I'm going to vote for shortly before the raiding party so we can ambush them, but I will leave it to you two.
I could go either way.
No, that feels good to me. We can have the something interesting encounter on the way back if we, have a good luck roll. But ambushing them before they manage to get back home feels like the best choice to me. Otherwise, we're going to have to try and figure out how to break into the compound.
True.
Okay, so as you guys are approaching the boneyard, you actually see a party of Bolsheviks heading towards the boneyards as well, and you can recognize some of what they're carrying as your own property. So what we are going to do is you are going to make engagement roll. So there are a number of different approaches you can take here. I'll just use the basic blades ones for now. So the options for the types of operation are assault, do violence to a target, deception, lure, trick, or manipulate, stealth, trespass unseen, social, negotiate, bargain, or persuade, or transport, carry cargo or people through danger. I'll give you a hint, it's probably not transport. This isn't something you're rolling so much as it's just like your general approach that you're taking. So the plausible ones here are assault, deception possibly, stealth possibly, and social possibly. So probably assault, but could also be stealth or social.
I have a question for you about my Ghost in the Darkness ability. Can I move while basically invisible?
I'm going to say yes, but you can't draw attention to yourself.
Well, I'm assuming as soon as I did anything that would draw attention, I become visible again.
You can skulk, but you can't run, you can't frolic, you can't,
Saunter?
you can't dash. Basically, skulking is the only verb that you can do while maintaining invisibility.
I mean, you'd have to be hard-pressed to find cause to frolic in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
I mean, I'm a big believer in player choice. If you guys want to frolic, then I am certainly not going to make that character decision for you.
So, say I went invisible, I could remain invisible right up until the point that I jacked somebody with my knife.
You would need to roll well for it, but yes, in theory you could.
Well, boys, do we want to set up an ambush?
Yes, please.
I would favor the stealth approach. What time of day is it?
So it was evening before, so I'm going to say this is getting to fairly late at night, where by late at night I mean close to sunrise.
I'd say we just sneak in as they're moving toward their compound and just lift as much of our shit as we can get off of them.
What's their layout? Like, is there a lead man? Like, what's their...
How many are we dealing with?
So you are dealing with about half a dozen. There is a leader on top of the cart loaded down with your supplies. And the cart is being pulled by insert appropriate Pokemon here.
Tauros.
Yeah, Tauros makes sense.
Oh, no. It's a Buffalant. It's a Tauros, but with a big afro.
And yes, you can tell who the leader is because he has the biggest bearskin hat, and he is yelling at the others. You aren't close enough or fluent enough in Russian, or the Pokemon equivalent of Russian, to tell what he's saying, but he does not seem happy, though from what you know of the Bolsheviks, that could just mean that it's Tuesday.
Are they surrounding the cart?
It's a fairly loose formation, but Jesus Christ.
Hey, I didn't design the Buffalant, I just figured what Pokemon here would be funniest.
It's a fairly loose formation, but yes, there is no, obvious angle where you could approach and remain unseen. If you want to go with a sneaks approach, you would need to do something to draw away some of these guards.
What kind of perimeter are they keeping? What's our terrain looking like?
So this is approaching the city, so it's like interchange type of thing. Lots of layers of elevated roadways in and out of the city. You guys are probably coming in on one of the higher levels, looking down on them. And like I said, they're in pretty loose formation. You wouldn't even really call it a formation. They're just kind of around.
In that case, I have an idea. Azrael, you and Chomper get up close. That is your specialty. I'll take Fennekin up to that overpass there and rain down as much chaos into their camp as I can. Strafe a few embers and psybeams around so that they're blinded and confused while they're trying to fight. Once I've got their attention, the two of you can get in amongst them and let them know just how dangerous it is to fuck with us. Once that's done, we can either call on them to surrender or finish the fight, depending on what kind of options they leave us.
Okay, so you want to shoot from above, and you want us to attack from the sides.
Yes.
Do you have a means of making noise, make them think we're more numerous than we are?
Lux puts her hand on Fennekin's head and gives it a little scratch, and Fennekin leans into the fingers and even tilt her head to try and get Lux's hand where she wanted to be. Don't worry, Fennekin and I know how to make some noise.
Okay, I guess that's... Unless anyone's got anything to add, that may be the best approach we got.
It's fine by me. And Azrael will start to prowl his way. I want to be waiting, and I want to do Ghost in the Darkness and be invisible next to them.
So, using Ghost in the Darkness, to put it in video game terms, if the guards are already alerted, then it will, break their alerted state. It's not something you want to use, proactively.
Well, fine, then I guess I'll be normal.
As you guys prepare to lay your ambush, you can see in the distance the ruined husk of the city nearby where you live, now known only as the Boneyard. Many of the windows have been smashed, and some of the buildings have been ground down to rebar skeletons and metal husks. In some of the buildings, you can still see lights where the Bolsheviks have set up camp, and indeed you can see some of the buildings sport floodlights, which you're sure will turn your way quite quickly, followed soon after by Bolshevik militias if your ambush raises too much attention. So, I am hearing an assault approach from you guys. Okay, that is not your favored operation. So, someone just roll me 1d6 for this.
Right, I'll go ahead and do that. That's a 6. Hey!
So this is just like what the starting disposition is. So the mechanic we're using for this is what's called a progress clock. This is a fairly simple task you're trying to do, but the opponents the Reds are going to be opposing you in doing this, so this is going to be a 6-segment clock. You are also doing this in the Reds' home territory, so there's going to be another 6-segment clock in what's called a racing clock scenario, where you're trying to fill your clock to get the cart turned around and headed back to your territory before they can fill their clock to call in reinforcements. And so what each of you are going to do is you are going to pick an action, narrate what you do, make a roll related to that action, and then depending on the outcome of that roll, this is a system where the GM does not roll any dice. The way I interact with the players and have you guys get attacked by the NPCs is just if you roll badly, then that's where my openings are. So the first thing you do is you state your goal. So whoever wants to go first, go ahead and state your goal.
I feel like we would have discussed this before we started, but I'm pretty sure that I'm the signal.
You would have gone first.
So what happens is Lux goes and she posts up on this overpass above the Bolsheviks' caravan. She sets her rifle down on the railing of the overpass so that she's got a steady firing position. Then she looks over at Fennekin and says, "Up you go, girl." And Fennekin goes, "Fen!" and jumps up onto the railing next to her. She looks through the sights of her gun to get a beat on the camp, and without even turning to Fennekin, she says, "Psi beam." The idea is to hit the whole group with a psi beam so that they are confused as to where we are, how many of us there are. I just want to get them nice and confused. And then she's going to open fire on the group below.
Is the crux of that action the psi beam or the opening fire?
The psi beam. They need to be confused.
Now you choose your action, and that sounds like a boss roll to me. I could also see a case for that being sway, maybe.
So that makes sense that it could be boss or sway because this is Lux giving a command to a Pokemon, and given that that is more a relationship type of deal, the social interaction stats, this seemed like they would be the best ones for that.
Okay, so you are in a controlled position. Yeah, I'll say this is a great effect. So I don't see any way for you to get assistance from this, but you can, if you want, either push yourself and take 2 stress, or you can take a devil's bargain, which will give you a bonus die, but there will be some sort of narrative consequence.
Okay, so what's the upshot between pushing stress and taking a devil's bargain?
So the upside is you get to roll an extra die. The downside, I think, is is your Fennekin's power will go a little bit out of control, and some of the psychic energy will reach the actual boneyards, and it will advance a pip on the Red's clock.
In that case, I'm just gonna take the straight roll. I don't need the extra stuff. I really just need this to hit with confusion, and that's it.
All right, sounds good. Now go ahead and roll.
Okay, and that is a 4.
On a 4 with a controlled position, you hesitate, withdraw and try a different approach, or else do it with a minor consequence. A minor complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you suffer lesser harm, you end up in a risky position. Essentially, you can do it without a hitch, but the choices are either the ambushing team will be in slightly worse position, or you can do it slightly less effectively than you were hoping, or you can do it at full effect and the ambush team will be in fine position, but either they'll get a lucky shot off and hit you, or you could end up overextended yourself somehow.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that it's reduced effect. Fennekin only manages to catch 3 of the 6, so only 3 of them are confused. The other 3 have not been hit by the side beam.
So it's actually a little bit more abstract than that. So it's not that smaller number of them are hit, it's just generally less effective. But mechanically, what that means is you are not going to fill in a space on the clock, but the assault team, you are going to have 1 die to whatever you do. For this round, at least. So, speaking of, whoever wants to go between Azrael and Chomper, go ahead and go.
You want this, Duffy?
Sure. What's the personnel layout in front of Azrael right now? Distance and all that.
They're just kind of around the cart because of the Psybeam. They are stumbling around and yelling at each other in Russian. You feel like maybe they might have gotten into the mushrooms a little on the way over here, so they weren't super coherent to begin with. The layout is confused. So whatever you do, you're going to be in control position.
I would like to get into knifing position if I can use Prowl to get in close to the nearest guard and knife him.
Okay, so you're trying to get in close. You're doing it using Prowl, which is the appropriate skill for this. So your position will be controlled, your effect level will be great. You have the bonus die for assistance from Vlad. Vlad, if you want to give them a further bonus die by taking a stress, then you can say how, and then they'll get a +1. And or you can push yourself or take a devil's bargain.
I think I'm okay for now. I'm gonna trust my team to do what they need to do.
Okay. Duffy, you gonna push yourself or take a devil's bargain?
What would the devil's bargain be?
So devil's bargain here would probably involve you and or Vlad and or Fennekin getting shot.
Okay, but the upshot is just that I get an extra die, or could I get to stab a guy and then fire at a guy?
Yeah, you just get an extra die.
Oh, then I'm good. I get 2 for Prowl anyway.
There's not necessarily like a multi-action mechanic in this system, but if you roll a 6, or especially if you roll a crit, then it's fine if you narrate that narratively as you stab one guy and then shoot another.
Okay, good, because I have 3 dice, so here, hopefully we get a crit. Nope, so I've got a 4 and a 5, let's roll a 3rd die, and that's a 1, so I got a 5.
Okay, so your choices are the same as Vlad's. You can withdraw and try a different approach. You can do it with a minor consequence, which is a minor complication, reduced effect, lesser harm, or end up in a risky position. You can choose whichever of those you like, but ending up in a risky position seems the most reasonable to me, just because, like, you're running up on these guys and starting to stab them.
No matter what, I'm going to be in a risky position, so I'll just take that.
Alright, great. So that is going to advance the clock by 1 position.
Our clock, right?
Yes. And to be clear, you can run up on people and not end up in a risky position. So, like, in this context, what that would mean is the Psybeam is so effective that they still aren't able to, like, figure out where the person stabbing them is or tell them from each other. So, like, the fact that you're engaged in close combat with these guys doesn't necessarily mean you need to leave controlled. It's just that's the most logical seeming solution to me. But yeah, you are going to risky. And with that, Chomper, what do you do?
I think I'm going to use Raid to target one of the Bolshevik guards and attempt to grab him from behind and try to non-lethally choke him out.
So one thing I do want to clarify real quick, you state your goal and then you state the skill you're using for it. It actually explicitly says this in the rules. If you want, you can do things like use wreck to try to seduce someone. If your stated goal is seducing them and your action is wreck, then that is totally a thing you can do. It's just going to have a limited effect.
I would like to ask you to describe to me how one seduces with wreck. Not because I don't think that it's possible, I just want to hear you describe it to me.
So, you know that one Amazon queen from Midsummer Night's Dream who only agreed to marry someone after they'd beaten them in a duel?
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh, okay.
Except, like, not... Like, in that case, it would actually be a great effect. In a different context, you just, like, start smashing stuff in front of someone, and then if you roll really, really well, it turns out they're a big fan of pro wrestling or something. So, what is your goal, and what's your action?
I'm going to try to head up to one of the caravan guards as they were, and just try to hit them aside the head in an attempt to knock them out.
Okay, so your goal is to knock out a guard, and what skill are you using for this?
Raid.
Cool. That sounds good. So your position will be controlled. This will have great effect. Assistance, push, or devil's bargain?
Nah, I think I'll go with the straight roll.
Okay, cool. Then go ahead and make the roll. You do still have the +1 die from Vlad's action earlier.
Alrighty, go ahead and do it. That's a 6 for the first.
Okay, strong start.
And a 4 for the second.
Okay, yeah, so you just do it exactly as narrated. You just grab one of the guards who, in his confusion, has stumbled away from the caravan, choke him out, and then drag him behind the barrier. So you are still in controlled, and that will fill up another slice of the pie. So back to the top of the order, and whoever wants to go next can go ahead and go.
My goal is to create more confusion down in the camp by either firing or having Fennekin hit them again with Psybeam, and I would like to use Boss to tell Fennekin to use Psybeam.
So I'll just fold the Psybeam and the shooting into a single action. Your position is still controlled. The effect level is going to be... Actually, I've been saying great, but I meant standard. So yeah, this is going to be standard as well. Assistance, push, or devil's bargain?
No.
Then go ahead and roll.
Okay, 5.
Alright, same choices as before. Withdraw and try a different approach, or minor complication, reduced effect, lesser harm, or risky position. Just so you know, withdrawing and trying a different approach means essentially you don't outright fail, but you'll need to roll a different skill, or a different action rather, usually at a reduced effect.
I'll take reduced effect like before. I'm happy to place it forward and just put these guys into a position where the rest of the team is going to be able to take them out easier.
Okay, then again, it is going to give the other 2 members of the party +1 die, but not going to advance the clock in itself.
Did the gentleman that Azrael stabbed the first time, is he still up?
No, he's not. So when you're fighting mobs in this, you don't really track specific numbers. It's not like in D&D where, like, you have 12 enemies, and you need to take each of those enemies individually to 0 hit points, and then you win the combat. it's more abstract than that. So, like, whenever you fill up the cart or the clock, you're free and clear. If I haven't narrated you killing the number of enemies I initially said, then what that means is just like you get the cart turned around and start skedaddling, leaving the remaining enemies in the dust. And if you have killed the number of enemies I said, but haven't yet filled up the clock, then that represents the, pulling it, being recalcitrant, or some other complication happens that means you can't leave the scene yet, but, like, the combat portion is over.
Okay, so I would like to get onto the cart and stab the leader.
Okay, so this is going to be risky, but the effect level will actually be great, because you are specifically targeting the leader.
And I'm going to use Prowl for this.
Alright, Assistance Push or Devil's Bargain.
What would the bargain be? Would it just be an extra die, or...?
So you're using your knife for this, right?
Yes.
I think it would be the knife is somehow rendered unusable, like you break the tip or it gets stuck or something like that.
But it's guaranteed action.
Yes, that's guaranteed to happen.
No, I mean, like, my attack is guaranteed, but I lose my knife in the process.
You get an extra die.
Okay. Yeah, screw it. Extra die.
Okay. Alright, so you are going to lose your knife until you can get it fixed. So note that down somewhere on your character sheet or whatever, and make your roll with that extra die.
Okay, so I get 4 dice now, right? And that's 1 6 and a 3, and then a 4. Damn it. So I got a 6, a 3, and then double 4s.
Okay, so this was great effect. So just straight succeeding is enough to fill up 2 spots on the clock. But you do hear a metallic pinging as you go to stab this guy the second time. And when you draw out your knife, it's about an inch shorter than it was. It no longer comes to a fine tip. I believe Chomper is next. But when this guy goes down, you do see the rest of the Bolsheviks see this, and they start to scatter.
Taking note of the Bolsheviks giving up on this cart, I believe Chomper is going to sort of seize the reins of the, what Pokemon did we decide it was? The
Buffalant.
Chomper is going to jump on top of the cart and seize the reins of the Buffalant, and he's going to try to pull it over and start aiming it toward the back toward the mazes along the way we came. And to do that, I believe that will be either a sway or a trek. I'm not sure.
That would be a sway. And I will ask Vlad, have you shared your Pokemon berries?
Absolutely. Lux has been trying to convince both Chomper and Azrael to get Pokemon of their own, so she's been sharing her berries with them so that they can try and befriend Pokemon if they ever get the chance.
Okay, then in that case, make this roll with an extra die.
Alrighty. Oof. That's a 1 for the first and a 5 for the second.
Okay, so you were still in controlled position. So, minor complication, reduced effect, lesser harm, or risky position, or withdraw and try a different approach.
I'll take minor complication.
Okay, so for a minor complication, the Buffalant, I'll just say that somehow this thing's learned uproar, and yeah, it just starts hollering and stamping, and you can see floodlights back in the boneyard clicking on. The Bolsheviks back at the boneyard have noticed and are probably starting to mobilize. Okay, top of the order.
Okay, we need to meet back up and get out of here. So, can I say that I have the tools to rappel down and just rope my way down to the cart where Chomper and Azrael are and just beat hell for leather?
So you can definitely rope down. What action would you be using to do that, though?
I'm going to call this finesse.
Okay.
because literally nothing else seems like it would be the right thing.
So finesse is locks or picks pocket. Finesse locks or picks pockets. Employ subtle misdirection or sleight of hand. Race in a vehicle. So I think this would actually be something more like boss or sway, because at this point the big problem is getting the Bouffalon to cooperate.
This actually works better then. It's I'm going to rappel down, and I'm going to try and use a boss to get the Bouffalon to calm down and cooperate with us.
Okay, great. Assistance, push, or devil's bargain?
No, I'm just gonna roll straight.
Okay, yep, you're controlled and standard effect, so go on.
Sweet, 6.
Okay, yeah, you get the cart turned around, and that fills up your clock, and before the Bolsheviks can even figure out exactly where you are, you get the cart turned around and headed back to the maze.
Woo! That's how you do it right there.
Well, gentlemen, that was a successful outing.
I heard that once.
Too many of them got away.
Not a bad thing in and of itself. Let them know that we're not to be fucked with.
Lady Lustrous has a point. There are too few people left anyway. I don't think we need to be going around killing each other so wantonly.
They'll just keep coming for us.
Yes, until we kill them or conquer them. One way or the other.
But I'll try and focus on the good. At least we got all their stuff back.
Yes. In fact, unless I'm mistaken, with all of this I think we're back in surplus. We might consider making olive branches out to other parties. We can see what we can do about building some kind of alliance, community, build our influence one way or another.
Yeah, I guess it's as good a plan as we got.
Well, we have to try and build something out of the wreck that is this world.
You know, I heard in a song once, can beauty come from ashes? Or come out of ashes? I don't know, it was an old CD.
Lux's head snaps around to stare at you. What CD? Where is this? I have not heard this one.
I mean, I fished it out of the glow. You probably wouldn't bother trying to listen to it. It might irradiate your fingies.
Lux puts her hand on your shoulder and stares deeply into your eyes, to an uncomfortably intense degree. I must hear it.
Well, I mean, I guess I could fish it up. The artist was a Celadon. The album cover was a little weathered.
Do you mean Celine Dion?
Maybe.
While they're having this conversation about the music, Azrael has removed his cloak and is using what's left of his knife and does a little scarification on his arm. 2. He adds 2 lines to the pattern that was already there.
Fun. So I think the closing shot is the long stretched out shadows crossing the desert wastelands as you head back.
As the anime ending theme starts playing.
Well, that was certainly an interesting first episode. I think I may have to do some traveling. While my current hideout situation is rather comfortable, I saw 1 or 2 leads in this episode that I may wish to follow up on personally. There's a certain blue-haired officer of the law that I haven't seen in what feels like a dog's age. Hopefully this time she won't shoot me, although she may have been specifically ordered to shoot me this time. Either way, I would like to thank Kevin MacLeod for providing music for this episode. You can check him out at incompetech.com, where all the music used in this episode is available under Creative Commons licensing. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it will make it easier for other researchers to find us and aid us in building a timeline of the forthcoming apocalypse. If you would like to support this podcast and my flight from justice, you can do so at patreon.com/Pokemon Primeval, where you will find membership levels offering all sorts of benefits, including altering the space-time continuum so that you too can survive the apocalypse, and even having Arceus GM a game for you and your friends. Goodbye for now, and I will see you next time on Apocalypse Now, where our story continues.